I was playing.
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
Well, I pity you. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. But I play with great expression.
Yes, sir.
That is all, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Earnest Worthy.
My dear friend Ernest, what brings you to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anyway?
And where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
We've got nice neighbours in your part of Shropshire.
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
Oh, how immensely you must amuse them. Now, Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Shropshire? Yes, of course. Oh, why all these cups? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, dear boy, but I'm not too sure how Aunt Augusta will feel of you being here.
And may I ask why?
Oh, my dear friend, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It's almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolyn. I have come into town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you said you had come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
There's nothing romantic about proposing. I wouldn't if I were you. I know what she can do.
Oh, boy.
She's deadly, and she really could rip your world apart.
There it is.
Mind over matter is beauty there, but a beast inside the heart.
Such clever wordplay.
Oh, here she comes.
So
Watch out, boy, she'll chew you
what? I don't even know
Oh,
this.
here she comes. She's a maiden.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, here she comes.
Play louder.
Watch out, boy, she'll chew you
There it is.
Oh, here she comes. She's a man-eater.
What nonsense.
It's very romantic to be in love, but there's nothing romantic about a definite proposal. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever find myself married, I'd certainly try to forget the fact.
Oh, I have no doubt about that, dear Algy.
You behave as though you were married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I don't think you will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. They don't think it right.
That is nonsense.
It is not. It is a great truth. It accounts for the extraordinary numbers of bachelors one sees all over the place. And in second, I don't give my consent.
Oh, your consent.
Yes, Gwendolyn happens to be my first cousin. And before you are ever allowed to marry her, you'll have to clear up the question of who Cecily is.
Cecily? Oh, what on earth what do you mean, Algy, by Cecily? I don't know anyone of the name of Cecily.
Lane, when did you watch Mr. Worley left in the washroom the last time you dined here?
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to tell me that you have my watch this whole time? I wish to goodness you would let me know. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was very nearly offering a large reward.
I wish to heavens you would. I have to be more than usually hard up. Oh, however, it makes no matter, for now that I read the inscription, the thing isn't yours after all.
Of course it's mine. You've seen me wear it 100 times, and you have no right whatsoever to read what is
Oh, it is absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should and shouldn't read. Nearly half of modern culture is dependent on what one shouldn't read.
I am quite well aware of that fact. I don't propose to discuss modern culture. It isn't the sort of thing one should talk of in private. I simply want my watch back.
Yes, but this isn't your watch. You see, this watch was a gift from someone of the name of Cecily. And you said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you must know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is too. Lives up in Turbidge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algy.
Yes, but why does she call herself Little Cecily if she was her aunt who lives in Tunbridge Wells? From little Cecily with her fondest of love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some ants are tall, some ants are not tall. For heaven's sake, give me back my watch.
Yes, but why does she call you her uncle if she is your aunt? From little Cecily with her fondest of love to her dear Uncle Jack. Besides, your name isn't Jack, it's Ernest.
It is not Ernest, it is Jack.
What do you mean to tell me your name isn't Ernest? You answered to the name of Ernest. I have introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You look as though your name was Ernest. You're the most Ernest-looking man I ever saw in my life. It makes perfectly no sense to say your name isn't Ernest.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country, and the watch was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that doesn't explain why you have a little Aunt Cecily who calls you her aunt who lives in Tunbridge Wells. Come on, old boy, better have it out at once. Might I mention, I have always suspected you of being a confirmed and hidden unlearnist. I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
I will reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable phrase as soon as you are kind enough to tell me why you are Jack in the country and Ernest in town.
Well, produce my watch first.
Here. There. Now, produce your explanation and pray make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there is nothing improbable about my explanation in the slightest. It's perfectly ordinary, in fact. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me, in his will, guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. A Cecily who addresses me as her uncle through motives of respect that you cannot possibly appreciate, lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Well, where is this place in the country, by the way?
That's nothing to you, dear boy. You are not going to be invited. I may tell you candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
I thought so, good fellow. You see, I have Bunburied all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now, why are you Jack in the country and Ernest in town?
When one is placed in the position of guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. It can be quite tedious. In order that I may come up to town, I've always pretended to have a younger brother of the name of Earnest, who gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That, dear Algie, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. What you really are is a Bunburyist. One of the most advanced Bunburyists I've ever known.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a younger brother called Earnest, so that you can escape to town as often as you like, while I have crafted a perfectly invalid younger brother called Bunbury, so that I may escape to the country as often as I choose. He is a perfect invalid. For example, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight, for I've truly been engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
But I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
Yes, I know, and that's dreadfully annoying about you. People hate it when you don't invite them places. Well, now that I know you to be a confirmed Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunburying. I need to explain the rules.
I am not a Bunburyist. If Gwendolyn accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. Indeed, I think I'll kill him in any case. Cecily is a little too interested in him. It's rather a bore. So I'm going to kill Ernest, and I highly suggest you do the same with your Mr. Barbary.
Bunbury.
With your invalid friend who has the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. If you are to get married, which seems to be extremely problematic, you'll certainly want to know him. Anyone who gets married not knowing Bunbury has a tedious time.
That is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she is the only girl I ever saw in my life that I would marry, I certainly won't want to know Bunbury.
Well, then she will. No, and that must be Aunt Augusta. Now, if I get you out of your way for 10 minutes so that you can propose to Gwendolyn, what do you say you take me out to Willis's tonight?
I suppose so, if you want to.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax. Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax. Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, Algernon. I hope you are behaving very well.
Ah, yes, I'm feeling quite well, Aunt Augusta.
Well, that's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Well, dear me, you are smart.
I am always smart, am I not, Mr. Worthing?
Oh, you're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not that. You would leave no room for developments. And I intend to develop in many directions.
I am sorry if we're a little late, Algernon. I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I haven't been there since her poor husband's death. I've never seen a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have that nice cup of tea you promised me.
Of course, Aunt Augusta.
Gwendolyn, won't you come and sit here?
Thanks, Mama. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Well, Algernon, I've quite a treat for you tonight. I'm going to send you down with Mary Barker. She's such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. It's quite delightful to watch them.
I hate to say it, Aunt Augusta, but I should have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
Oh, I hope not. It would put my table completely out.
Well, it is a great bore, and I need hardly say a terrible disappointment, but I've just received a telegram to tell me that my dear friend Bunbury has fallen very ill. I seem to think I should be there for him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Well, he is a dreadful invalid.
Yes. Well, I think it is high time this Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or to die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd. And I would be very much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me not to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me.
Yes, well, I will talk to Bunbury if he is still conscious. But I think he should be fine by Saturday. Of course, the music is a great difficulty. If one plays good music, nobody listens, while if one plays bad music, nobody talks. What do you say I run over the program I've drawn out? If you'll just follow me to the next room over for a couple of minutes.
Very thoughtful of you, Algernon. I'm sure the program will be delightful with a few expurgations. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mama.
A charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthy. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel that they mean something else, and that always makes me so nervous.
But I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to, if I may, take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly invite you to do so. Mama has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I often want to speak to her about.
Oh, no, that will never do.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I ever met since I met you.
Yes, I am quite well aware of that fact. And I often wish that in public, at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There is something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment that Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Ernest, I knew I was destined to love you.
Then you really love me, Gwendolyn?
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Ernest!
Well, you really don't mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Earnest.
Yes, I know, but supposing it was something else, do you mean to say that you couldn't love me then?
Oh, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference to the facts of life as we know them.
Well, personally, darling, I don't much care for the name of Ernest. I don't think the name suits me at all.
Oh, it suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has music of its own. It produces vibration.
Well, really, Gwendolyn, I must say I think there are other and much nicer names out there. I think Jack, for instance, a charming name.
Jack? Oh, no. There is very little music in the name of Jack, if any at all, indeed. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known many Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John, and I pity any woman who is married to a man called John. She would probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasures of a single moment's solitude. The only real safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, darling. We must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once. There is no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, yes. You know that I love you, and you led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, you were not completely indifferent to me.
I adore you. But you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject hasn't even been touched upon.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I would think it to be an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it only fair to tell you quite frankly that I am fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course, darling. How long have you been about it? I'm afraid you've had very little experience in how to propose.
My own one. I never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. My, what wonderfully brown eyes you have, Mr. Worthing. They are quite brown. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Oh, Mr. Worthing! Rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent posture. It's most unbecoming.
Mama, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing isn't quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. Should you become engaged to someone, I or your father, if his health permits him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come upon a young girl as a surprise. Whether pleasant or unpleasant, as the case may be, it is hardly a matter a girl can be allowed to arrange for herself. Now I have some questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I am making my inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mama!
In the carriage, Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mama.
Gwendolyn! The carriage!
Yes, Mama.
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men. However, I'm quite ready to add your name should your answers be what a truly affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I do smoke.
I'm very glad to hear it. A man should have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I've always been of opinion that a man who desires to be married should know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
Oh, I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
That is satisfactory.
I have a country house with some land, of course, attached to it, about 1,500 acres, but I don't depend upon that for my real income.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Oh, that matter can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolyn can hardly be expected to reside in the country.
I own a house on Belgrave Square.
What number?
149.
The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, I suppose that can be cleared up.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary, I presume. And now on to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both of my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, seems a misfortune. To lose both seems like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth.
I'm afraid I don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I lost my parents. It would be nearer the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am, Everett. I was found.
Found?
It was like the late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of a very charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. But Worthing is a place in Sussex at the seaside resort.
And where did this charitable gentleman who had this first-class ticket for the seaside resort find you?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. I was in a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was in a handbag. A somewhat large brown leather handbag, an ordinary handbag, in fact.
And in the locality of the cloakroom?
Yes, the second line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I must confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you've just told me. To be born, or at any rate, bred in a handbag? Whether it had handles or not, seems to me a flagrant disregard and contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life. And as for the locality in which this handbag was found, a cloakroom in a railway station could hardly be recognized as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society. Some boys romance, some boys slow dance, that's all right with me. If they can't raise my interest, then I have to let them be. Some boys try, and some boys cry, but I don't let them play. Only boys who save their pennies
asked what you would advise me to do, I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
Well, I would strongly advise you to try and locate some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce, at any rate, one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I could produce the handbag at any moment. It's in my dressing room back at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has this to do with me? You cannot imagine that I or Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel? Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning, Mr. Worthing. For goodness sake, don't play that ghastly tune, Algy. How idiotic you are.
Didn't it go all right, old boy? Or did Gwendolyn refuse you? Oh, she has this nasty habit of refusing people. I think it's most ill-natured of her.
Oh, Gwendolyn is as right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we're engaged already. Her mother, on the other hand, is perfectly unbearable. You don't think there's any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in, say, 150 years? Algy?
All women become like their mother. That is their tragedy. No man does. That's his.
Is that clever?
Oh, it's perfectly phrased. Now, you did tell Gwendolyn about you being Jack in the country and Earnest in town, yes?
My dear fellow, the truth isn't quite the sort of thing one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl. What extraordinary ideas you have about the way to behave to women.
Oh, no. The only way to handle a woman is to make love to her. If she's pretty, and someone else if she's plain.
That is nonsense.
What about your brother? What about Earnest?
Oh, before the end of the week, I shall have got rid of him. I'll say he died in Paris.
Well, didn't you say that... You should say of a severe chill.
You sure a severe chill isn't hereditary or anything of that kind?
No, of course not.
Very well then. My poor brother Earnest to be carried off in Paris by a severe chill. That gets rid of him.
What about Cecily? Didn't you say that your ward was quite fond of him?
Oh, that is nothing, dear boy. Cecily is not a silly romantic girl, I'm glad to say. She's got a capital appetite, goes on long walks, and pays no attention at all to her lessons.
Well, I would rather like to meet this Cecily.
And I will take very good care to see that you never do. She is excessively pretty, and she's only just 18.
Oh, well, does Gwendolyn know about this excessively pretty ward of yours who is just 18?
Oh, one does not just blurt these things out to people. Cecily and Gwendolyn are sure to be extremely great friends. I'll bet you anything you like that half an hour after they've met, they will be calling each other sister.
They only call each other that after they've called each other a lot of other things. Now, we had better get to Willis's if we want a good table. Have you any idea what time it is? It's nearly 7.
Oh, it always is nearly 7.
Yes, but I'm hungry.
I never knew you when you weren't.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, by my word.
Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to
Gwendolyn,
Mr. Worthing.
really, I cannot allow
Algy,
this.
you've always adopted a
at
strictly
all.
immoral attitude towards life, and you are not quite old enough to do that. Ernest, we may never be married. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children have to say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the youth is fast dying out. Whatever influence I had over Mama, I lost at the age of 3. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, nothing she could ever possibly do would alter my eternal devotion to you.
Dear Gwendolyn.
Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you. Whatever it takes, or how my heart breaks, I will be right here waiting for you. Oh, can't you see it, baby? You've got me going crazy. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I country?
The Manor House, Alton, Hertfordshire.
There is a good postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something drastic that would require some serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily.
My own one.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Alton, you may turn around now.
Thanks, I've turned around already.
You will let me see you to your carriage, my own darling?
Oh, certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Your mail, sir.
Ah, thank you, Lane. Bills? Bills? Bills. Lane, tomorrow I go bunburying.
Yes, sir.
I shouldn't be back till Monday. Get my smoking jackets, my suits, and my bunbury suits ready.
Yes, sir.
Should be a glorious day.
Never is, sir.
What a perfect pessimist you are, Lane.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
Oh, there is a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I ever cared for in all my life. Oh, what on earth are you so amused at?
Oh, just a bit nervous for Bunbury. Going Bunbury tomorrow.
Oh, if you're not careful, this Bunbury of yours will get you into a serious scrape someday.
Oh, I love scrapes. They're the only thing that aren't serious.
That is nonsense, Alger. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Yes, but nobody ever does. I don't care if Monday's blue, Tuesday's gray and Wednesday's too. Thursday, I don't care about you. It's Friday, I'm in love. Monday, you can fall apart. Tuesday, Wednesday, break my heart. Thursday, don't even start. It's Friday, I'm in love. Saturday, wait. And Sunday always comes too late. On Friday, doesn't hesitate. I don't care if Monday's blue, Tuesday's gray, and Wednesday's too. Thursday, I don't care about you. It's Friday, I'm in love. Monday, you can fall apart. Tuesday, Wednesday, break my heart. Thursday, doesn't even start. It's Friday, I'm in love. It's Friday, I'm in love. It's Friday, I'm in love.
Cecily, your German grammar is on the table. Pray open it to page 15 and we'll repeat yesterday's lesson.
I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know that your guardian is anxious for you to improve yourself in every way.
Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he's so serious that I think he cannot be quite well.
Cecily, I am surprised at you. You know that Mr. Worthing has many, many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality have no place in his conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him, Miss Prism.
I am no fan of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so shall he reap. Cecily, put away your diary. I really don't see why you should have a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I don't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that have never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that Maudie sends us.
Do not speak slightly of the 3-volume novel. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good end happily, and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so, but it seems very unfair. Was your novel ever published?
Oh, alas, no. The manuscript was abandoned. I use the word in the sense of mislaid or lost. To your work, child, these speculations are profitless.
And here's Dr. Chasuble, who's just come up through the garden.
Oh. Dr. Chasuble, this is a big surprise.
And how are we this morning, Miss Prism? I trust you are well?
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do so much good to have a short stroll with me in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
I made no mention of a headache, Cecily.
No, dear Miss Prism, I know that, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not my German lesson in the rectitude.
I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned from town yet.
Oh, no, we don't expect until Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes, he usually likes to spend his Sunday in London. Well, he's not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. I shall see you both, no doubt, at evensong.
I think, dear Doctor, that I will have a stroll with you at
Oh, Piers, I do have a headache after all.
a walk might do me good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We might go as far as the schools and back.
Oh, that'd be delightful.
Cecily, you will work on your political economy in my absence.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German. Clock strikes upon the hour and the sun begins to fade. Still enough time to figure out how to chase no lose or I've done alright up till now. The light of day that shows me how. When the night falls, going to fall. Oh, I miss somebody. Oh, he is somebody. Oh, I would enter somebody with some loyalty. Oh, I miss Excuse me, miss. Excuse me, miss. Excuse me, miss. Mr. Earnest Worthing has driven over from the station. He's brought his luggage with him. Uncle Jack's brother! Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town? Yes, miss. He seemed very much disappointed. I mentioned you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He was anxious to speak with you privately for a moment. Ask Mr. Earnest Worthing to come here. We would better speak to the housekeeper about a room for him. Yes, miss. Oh, I've never met any really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm afraid he will look just like everyone else. He does.
How are you doing? And you must be my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You are under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I am more than usually tall for my age. But I'm no cousin Cecily. You I see from your card are Uncle Jack's brother. And my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh no, you really mustn't say that. I'm truly not all wicked.
If you are not, then you've certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you've not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Yes, of course I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it. But I can't understand how you're here. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday afternoon.
Oh, well, I'm ashamed to hear it, but I must take the first train up back by Monday. I have a meeting I'm rather anxious to miss.
Oh, couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the meeting is in London.
Well, I know, of course, how important it is to not keep the business. But still, I think we'd better wait until Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wanted to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
You're emigrating? Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
To Australia? Why, I'd sooner die.
Uncle Jack said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Well, Cousin Cecily, this world is good enough for me.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
Well, I'm afraid I'm not that, Cousin Cecily. That's why I wanted to make it your personal mission this afternoon to reform me, if you would.
I'm afraid I don't have time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind if I were to reform myself?
I think you should try. Oh,
My, I feel better already. Cecily.
I'm looking a little worse.
Well, that is only because I am hungry.
Oh, how thoughtless of me. I forgot that Gwendolyn is leading an entirely new life and requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Cecily, you are the prettiest girl I've ever seen.
Miss Prism says that all the looks are a snare.
Snare that any sensible man would love to be caught in.
I don't think I should care to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You are too much alone, dear Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. You don't seem to realize that by permanently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Man should be more careful. Such celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
Oh, no married man is ever attractive except to his wife.
Often I am told not even to her.
Well, that does depend on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be depended upon. Ripeness trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. I drew my metaphor from fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us in school.
Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthing?
We didn't expect you until Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you are well.
Oh, my dear Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not mistoken some terrible calamity.
My brother?
More extravagance and shameful debts?
Still leading his life of pleasure.
Dead.
Oh,
Your brother Earnest dead?
Oh, quite dead.
what a lesson for him. I trust he'll profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolences. You at least have the consolation of knowing that you were the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Oh, poor Ernest. He had many, many faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him in the end?
No, he died abroad, in Paris. In fact, I have a telegram for the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
Oh, severe chills.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am particularly susceptible to draughts. Will the interment take place here?
No, he seems to have expressed a desire to be married in Paris.
You no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon can be adapted to almost any situation. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations.
That reminds me, dear doctor, you mentioned christenings. I suppose you know how to christen all right. I mean, you are continually christening, aren't you?
It is one of the rector's most constant duties of the parish. I often talk to the poor classes on the subject, but they don't seem to understand what thrift is.
But is there any particular infant with whom you are interested? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
Oh, people who usually live for pleasure usually are.
Oh, but it is not for any child, dear doctor. I'm very fond of children. You know, I would like to be christened myself this afternoon if you haven't got anything better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
Do you have any grave doubts?
I certainly intend to have. Of course, I don't know if the whole thing would bother you in any way, or if you think I'm a little too old now.
Not at all. What hour do you wish the ceremony to be performed?
Oh, would 5:30 do?
Perfectly, perfectly. And now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer in this house of sorrow. I only ask that you not be too much power down. What often seems to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me an obvious blessing.
Uncle Jack!
Since I haven't got a brother?
Oh, don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he is still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you'll shake hands with him over to Uncle Jack.
These are joyful tidings.
His sudden return seems peculiarly distressing.
My brother is in the dining room. I don't know what it all means. I think it is perfectly absurd. Oh, good heavens!
Brother John! I have come down from town to tell you that I am sorry for how I have behaved to you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future. Oh.
Uncle Jack, will you brother's hand?
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me all about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, whom he goes to visit so often. Surely there must be much good in one who is kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, he has been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he has told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Bunbury. Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or anything else. It is enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
Of course, I admit that the faults were all on my side. But I must say, Brother John's coldness to me is especially painful, seeing as this is the first time I have come here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never!
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
It's wonderful, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? I think we might leave the two brothers together.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, my little task of reconciliation is over.
Gee, you young scoundrel, you must leave this place as soon as possible. I don't allow any bunburying here. I'll have a dog cart ordered at once. Mr. Earnest has suddenly been called back to town.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I have not been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
Well, I haven't heard my name called.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman never interferes with my pleasures.
I can quite understand that.
Poor Cecily is a darling, isn't she?
You are not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. You had better go change.
Oh, at any rate, it is better than being always so overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little bit overdressed, I always make up for it for being extremely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous, your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, I hope you will have a pleasant journey back to town. This Bunbury, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
It has been a great success, and I am in love with Cecily, and that is everything. Now I must see Cecily again to plan out another Bunbury. There she is.
Oh, I really came out to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
Yes, he's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Is he going to take you for a nice drive?
No, he's sending me home.
And have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It is a painful parting.
Yes, it is always painful to part from people who one has known for a very brief space of time.
Cecily, I hope I shall not offend you if I state quite frankly that you are the absolute personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will enter your remarks into my diary.
Diary? I'd give anything to look at it, might I?
Oh no. You see, it is something very young girls write their own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I hope you'll order a copy of it and pray Ernest to don't stop. I delight to take them down as a dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on, I am quite ready for more. Please, Ernest, don't cough. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell it.
Cecily, ever since I first laid eyes upon you, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think that you should say that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily, I love you. Will you marry me?
Oh, you silly boy! Of course! Why, we have been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on
how did we become engaged?
Ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And of course, a man who is much talked about is always very attractive. One feels there must be something in him after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Yes, but when did we become engaged?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the match one way or the other. After a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. Oh, the next day I went out and bought this little ring in your name.
Dear me, did I get this for you? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you wonderfully good taste. It's the excuse I've always given for your leading such a bad life. Oh, and this is the box in which I keep all your dear letters.
But my dear, sweet, loving Cecily, I never wrote you any letters.
No, dear, you need hardly remind me of that. I remember all too well that I was forced to write them for you. I wrote always 3 times a week and sometimes oftener.
You might have read some.
Oh no, they would make you far too conceited. The 3 that you wrote to me after the engagement was broken off were so beautiful and so badly spelled that even though I can hardly read them without crying a little.
When was the engagement broken off?
On the 22nd of last March. Here, you can see the entry if you like. Today I broke off my engagement with Earnest. I feel it was better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
Cecily, what had I done? I had done nothing at all. I'm quite hurt to read this, especially when the weather was so charming.
It would have probably been considered a very serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out.
Cecily, perfect angel.
You dear romantic boy.
I'm so glad I found you. I'm not gonna lose you. Whatever it takes, baby, I'm gonna do. See you through the good times, be there through the bad times. Whatever it takes, baby, I'm gonna do.
Don't say we're crazy. What do they know? Put your arms around me, baby. Don't ever let go. Let the world around us just fall apart. Maybe we can make it if your heart too hard.
And we can build this love together, standing strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop us now.
This world and I have lovers.
We'll still have each other. Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now.
All that I need is you.
All that I ever need.
All that I need is you.
All that I ever need. Cecily, you'll never break off the engagement again, won't you?
I don't think I could break it off now that I've actually met you. There is, of course, the question of your name.
Yes, of course, my name.
Oh, you must not laugh at me, darling. It always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Earnest. There seems to be something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Earnest.
Yes, but are you saying you couldn't love me if I had, say, any other name?
What name?
Oh, any name like, Algernon, for instance.
I don't like the name of Algernon.
There's nothing wrong with the name of Algernon. I don't see why you should hate it. But, Cecily, honestly, if I wasn't Earnest, would you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear that I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, I'm sure your rector here is knowledgeable in the rites and ceremonials of the church, yes?
Yes, Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
Well, I would like to meet him on the most important of christenings.
Oh!
I mean, the most important of business. I shouldn't be no more than half an hour.
Oh, seeing as you